You have classic anti-Semitism. This is the stuff that we saw in Nazi Germany. This is the comparing of Jews to monsters or demons or stuff like that. The Jew with all the money, or the Jew taking over the world, or the Jew in charge of the press. That is classic anti-Semitism. And most people would not argue that that is classic anti-Semitism. Now, in Nazi Germany, Israel did not exist yet. So now we have a revised and updated definition for anti-Semitism that keeps in mind anti-Zionism and the modern day anti-Semitism that the average Jew or Zionist will face. When does one cross the line from being anti-Zionist to being anti-Semitic? It's when it falls into one of these three categories. It's a formula called the 3 Ds. It was formulated by Natan Sharansky. He's the former head of the Jewish Agency in Israel. He was also a former refusenik in Soviet Russia. He was jailed for trying to be a leader of the Jewish people, to try to save the Jewish people, to get the Jewish people out of Soviet Russia. He coined this formula called the 3 Ds. So the 3 Ds are demonization, delegitimization, or double standards. I'll give examples of each. Demonization. This, a lot of times, is that classic anti-Semitism that you see of the Jew as the monster, as something demonic, right? Demonization, something subhuman that you wouldn't want to be. But it also includes an Israeli soldier, an Israeli leader, something having to do with Israel being compared to a monster, to a Nazi, to a demon, to a vampire, right? Those are all examples of demonization of the Jewish people or of Israel or of an Israeli. And that is when we have crossed the line from legitimate criticism of Israel to anti-Semitism. Delegitimization, what does that mean? Is to delegitimize the state of Israel. Israel has no right to exist. Israel has no right to defend itself. Israel has no right to an army from the river to the sea. Does Israel have any room in there? That is delegitimization. So saying that Israel has no right to exist and Israel has no right to an army is an example of when legitimate criticism of Israel has crossed the line into anti-Semitism. Now, the last one is a double standard. When you hold a magnifying glass over Israel, or the Israeli policies, or the Israeli people, or the Jewish people, and you expect them to hold by a standard that isn't expected by any other country in the world. For example, right now, Israel was attacked on October 7th. 1,200 innocent civilians were murdered. 240 hostages were taken into Gaza. Any average country would not only be expected to have a response against that enemy, but that's something that the whole world would see as legitimate. For whatever reason, Israel's response against Hamas, in this case, is not seen as legitimate, even though their sovereign nation was attacked and their civilians were hurt. That is an example of a double standard, things along those lines. That is when anti-Zionism has crossed the line into anti-Semitism and should be called out as such.